people. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Park Ridge Park District Board of Commissioners. Marianne, I guess we're going to say the pledge first. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And Marianne, if you could call the roll.
Commissioner Bendy?
Here.
Commissioner Bowe?
Here.
Commissioner Coyne? Commissioner Hulting?
Here.
Commissioner Leduc?
Here.
Commissioner Tunnell?
Here.
Commissioner Grau?
All right, and we actually have something tonight under the amend, add, or delete category. I move to remove agenda item 15.C.2.B, mission statement, follow-up, and review. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Marianne, call the question, please.
Any questions? Okay. Commissioner Bendy?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne? Commissioner Hulting?
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc?
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Grau?
All right. Do we have any public comment on non-agenda items? Does not appear to be so. So now I'm going to move to adjourn Sine DA for the purpose of holding the annual meeting and thereafter to reconvene to the regular board meeting. Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne? Commissioner Hulting?
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc?
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnell? Commissioner Bendy?
Yes.
Commissioner Grau?
That having passed, I call to order the annual meeting of the Park Board. And as part of that, I move to appoint Attorney Price to serve as temporary chairperson until a president has been elected. Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Commissioner Coyne? Commissioner Hulting?
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc?
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Bendy?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Grau?
I will now pass the gavel.
At this time, I'll entertain nominations for the office of Board President for the Board of Park Commissioners.
I nominate Jennifer Leduc for the office of president.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? I therefore declare the nominations for office of president closed, and congratulations, Commissioner Leduc. You are now the board president.
Thank you. I will now accept nominations for the office of vice president. I nominate John Tunnell for the office of vice president.
Second.
Are there any further nominations? There being none, John Tunnell is now our vice president. I will now entertain a motion for the appointment of the treasurer.
I nominate Commissioner Bowe.
There is a motion that you need to say.
We'll make it up in the minutes. I got a Marianne. The motion is to appoint Commissioner Bowe, as the treasurer.
Second. Are there any other nominations? Being none, congratulations, Commissioner Bowe. I will now entertain a motion for the appointment of a secretary.
I move that Cindy Grau be appointed as secretary to the Board of Park Commissioners. Can I have a second?
Second.
Any other nominations? Hearing none, Commissioner Grau is now appointed as secretary. So, all right, I nominate Executive Director Mountcastle of the Park Ridge Park District as the Park Ridge Park District representative on the MNASR Board of Directors. Can I have a second?
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none. Congratulations, Executive Director Mountcastle. I further nominate Superintendent Armour of the Park Ridge Park District alternative representative on the MNASR Board of Directors. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any further nominations? Hearing none. Oh, and sorry, I forgot to ask, is there any discussion? All right, there being none, congratulations, Superintendent Armour. And now I will appoint the Recreation, Buildings and Ground and Intergovernmental Liaisons. I would like to appoint Matt Coyne as the Recreation Liaison. I would like, and can I do them all at once? All right, thank you. I would like to appoint Melissa Holtings as the Buildings and Grounds Liaison, and I would like to appoint Joan Bendy as the Intergovernmental Liaison. Is there anything further? Nope. Yep, okay. And I hope that, I'm sure that everybody will rise to the occasion. So now I move to adjourn the annual meeting and to reconvene to the regular board meeting in Stantor. Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, shall we take a vote? Voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. I hereby reconvene to the regular board meeting. Mary Ann, if you could do a roll call?
Sure. Commissioner Bendy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bowe,
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne, Commissioner Grau, Commissioner Hulting,
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnel,
Aye.
Commissioner Leduc.
Yes. All right. I move to approve the regular board meeting minutes of Thursday, April 21st, 2022, and Thursday, May 5th, 2022. And we'll do this by voice vote. All in favor?
Can we have a second, please?
Oh, sorry.
Second.
Second. Thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passing. Now, as for the report of park officials, sadly, I do not yet have a report as president. I know I had 9 minutes. I'm slacking, but so I will. Rob. So I now ask if our attorney Price has a report. All right, in that case. All right, Director Mountcastle.
Sure. The microphone. Yes, just in general, obviously, we're rolling into our busy season of the year. Staff is really stepping up in all departments, preparing for, preparing the facilities, preparing all the financials, preparing, all the trainings that are starting to happen. So it's great to see this all occurring in the district. So we're excited to roll into summer. Wanted to give a quick update. I know I put this in my report to the board on Friday, but I am going to ask that the board approve the referendum question in June versus July, and that is due to a informational piece that Manager Holler has informed me goes out before our July meeting, and it's an opportunity to take advantage of that to further inform the public about the referendum. So I thought that was a prudent thing to do, if nobody objects to that. The other thing with the gearing up for the referendum, I've asked Ansel Glank to do a seminar, like seminar, a presentation and just a discussion on the do's and don'ts of, for the board and for the staff. And so we're aiming, I think we decided on the July meeting, and Carrie Lynn Craftifer will do that. She's a partner as well, and that's one of her specialties that she goes out and does for the districts. And we're going to also try to do another one for staff. We talked about that just because of the importance of making sure that everybody understands, that there's very specific rules and laws on that. So I was aiming, like I said, July for that. Wanted to mention, I think we did mention at the last meeting about the Friends of the Park and the bike sale, their biggest event. They ended up raising $8,070. So that was amazing with the weather that day. So we thank, the Friends of the Parks for that. It turned into a great annual event. And also, I don't know if you've noticed out at Centennial, they also donated that bike repair station. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to see that, but we've gotten comments from several of the residents about that. It's a nice addition there. Unfortunately, my next topic is about our ongoing violence and vandalism and incidents at the Park District. I wanted to inform you that we did get an admission of guilt for the 2 incidents that occurred. It was the same individual at the Nature Center. The one was on January 13th. That's where that resulted in destruction and fire of 2 cameras at the Nature Pavilion and a picnic table that was thrown in the pond. And then the second incident occurred March 25th, 2022. That resulted in destruction and fire of 4 lens camera located in the wooded area of the Nature Center. So for that, we are going to be receiving restitution, and also the individual will be directed to the peer jury and signing up for the peer jury that is done through the city of Park Ridge. I also wanted to mention this is a Park Ridge resident, so I thought that those are the facts, obviously, without naming the people that are responsible for this. And then, unfortunately, yesterday, we had about 4-ish o'clock, we had additional vandalism, graffiti at the skate park. And it was it's the same symbol that was used as the ones at the recent one in the bathroom at Hinckley. And so on the football trailer, on the skate park, and on the bathrooms. Fortunately, we had just the day before gotten our cameras installed. And we have very clear pictures of this individual. So we will be working with the Park Ridge Police as normal to try to get the suspect and go through our process of punishment for these things. So the camera, again, I can't stress enough, the investment in the cameras at this district is really paying off. 3 of the 4 larger incidents, I think it's important to mention publicly that we have had, the one at the fitness center and then these last 2 at the Nature Center. So 3 of the 4, the only one we haven't resolved yet is the one, and then this recent one from yesterday, but the one at the skate park that occurred, or in the bathrooms at Hinckley. But we have resolved and caught the suspects for 3 of those 4 larger incidents. So we follow our district ordinance violation terms, and like I said, we're collecting restitution on all 3 of those. We've already received that for the fitness center theft. So, as we move into, as I said, our busiest outdoor season, we continue to encourage the residents to be vigilant and call the police if they witness suspicious behavior. We have 0 tolerance, as the board knows, for the vandalism, and continue to pursue all of our options. We will also be putting out, we wanted to get the individual in for the incidents at the Nature Center, which happened this week. And so we will be putting this out to the public, kind of a statement like, we do resolve these issues, and we do follow there's ordinances. You can find them on the, website, and that we have 0 tolerance for that. So that is all I had to highlight. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Well, I mean, it's sad that we have to spend our money on that, but I'm glad that we did, and I'm glad that we're actually catching people and finding restitution. That's definitely, hopefully there will be some sort of deterrent effect once the public realizes that it's harder to get away with such despicable acts.
Right.
Any other questions for Executive Director Mountcastle? No? All right, so hand it over to Finance. Oh, Rob? Sorry, Commissioner Treasurer Bo.
Yeah, I need to get used to this new position
know.
of power. I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner DeAngelis.
Thank you
no.
for the upgrade.
Yeah.
Superintendent DeAngelis.
Superintendent. Yeah, right. It's already going to my head.
Thank you. You're going to be a well-oiled machine in a minute. So the first item under finance is the final 2021 audit. I just wanted to point out that the books are in front of you. We did have a last-minute update to the organizational chart, and I've included that updated sheet in your book. It's not very legible, but I just wanted to let you know that the updated chart is in the electronic version where you can zoom in and you'll be able to see it much better. So we have with us Don Shaw from Lauterbach and Amon, and I'm going to invite him to come up and present the audit to you.
No problem.
Now I won't be tempted, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. All right, thank you for having me. I first would like to thank Sandra and her staff for all their help in making this another successful audit year. Without her help, this wouldn't be possible, so thank you. I'm going to first go through the annual financial report, which is the thicker of the packets you received. And if you turn to page 7, you will find the Certificate of Achievement Award. This award was given for the 2020 audit, and we have applied for and expect to receive the same award for 2021. So congratulations on receiving this award. If you turn about 3 more pages, you'll find our Lauterbach and Amon letterhead. This is our independent audit report in which we provide a clean, unmodified opinion. It's the highest opinion you may receive, and it basically states that we found no issues with internal controls or the numbers as they're presented that would otherwise alter our opinion. Your management discussion and analysis will begin on page 14. And this really provides you a summary of how the year performed in narrative form. So if you have questions on fluctuations from year to year, what the numbers truly mean, this is where you would want to go to find those answers. Your individual fund financial statements will begin on page 29. And your financial statements start off with your balance sheet. And as you can see on the bottom, on the far right column, you'll notice that the total ending fund balance for the Park District as a whole was at $8.6 million. 35%, or about $3 million, is related to your general fund, which is your main operating fund. To see how these funds performed in the current year, we can skip ahead 1 page to what would be your income statement on page 31. Towards the middle of page 31, you'll notice that both the general and the recreation fund had operating increases of $433,000 and $563,000. So it was overall a very good year for the Park District. This is primarily related to your revenues coming in slightly higher than anticipated and your expenditures being below budget in both funds. The general fund was further reduced by a transfer out to your capital projects fund to help fund some of these projects that you guys started in 2021. So your general fund ended up with a net loss of $210,000. But again, overall, you want to focus on that operating revenue. It was a very good year this year. Your notes to the financial statement will begin on page 33. And the notes really provide further detail into how we came up with the numbers that we did with supporting schedules. Within there, you'll find your capital asset and your long-term debt schedules. One item I did want to point out to you is on page 58. Page 58 provides you a breakdown of your IMRF pension. And you'll notice at the bottom on the far right column, it's although it's a negative number, negative 2.5 million, this is actually a good thing. This means that you actually have a net pension asset. And it's primarily due to, you'll notice the net investment income was at $4 million. So it was a very favorable year market-wise in IMRF. So it was a good year for IMRF this year. Lastly, I'll have you go to page 69. Page 69 is the start of your budgetary information. So if you want to see how a specific fund performed based on what was budgeted, this is where you'd want to go to find that. And you'll see, as I mentioned earlier, your revenues were higher than budgeted and your expenditures were below budget, which contributed to that operating increase. Does anyone have any questions on the financial statements before moving on?
I just kind of had a question as a reference point. Presumably, you work with other park districts. And I was wondering, how does the performance, obviously, I'm not expecting you to name names and violate any client confidentiality, but how does the performance of our park district over the past year compare to some of the other districts you've looked at?
I mean, now that programs are starting to open up, because obviously you can't really compare the
Right, obviously, the beginning of the
years.
year was,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
2021
So
was still rough, but.
yeah, I think you guys did really well this year with, now that the programs are starting to open up and you guys are talking with Sandra, it sounds like the summer camps are going to be really good going forward. But I think the last half of the year, I think the park district did really well.
Thank you. It's one thing to look at these numbers in a vacuum, but it's nice to hear like, okay, well, compared to other ones, how is our district doing?
Yeah.
So, and my highest compliments to Superintendent DeAngelis on the well-prepared report.
Yes. Yes.
And so, so also thank you to the staff.
All right. Any other questions on the financial statements? All right. Real quick, we did also provide a management letter. We only had one current year comment. It's more of a heads up that next year GASB 87 is going to be implemented, and that's going to be a change in how leases are going to be reported. There's no longer operating capital lease. GASB now says a lease is a lease. So we'll work with Sandra and her team on that implementation next year.
And what kind of impact do you foresee that having?
So for you guys, I was talking with Sandra, it may not be material. So it may be a moot point. It depends on, we talked about, different various leases that you guys might have. Like, I think you guys have copier leases maybe, or no? Yeah, so it may be a moot point. We'll have to reevaluate next year, and once we can take a quicker, a longer dive into those agreements to determine if it'll impact you. It will only impact the government-wide financials, though. It shouldn't affect your fund levels.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yep. Any other questions? All right. If not, well, thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
I move to accept the audited 2021 comprehensive annual financial report of the Park Ridge Park District as presented. Roll call, please.
Second.
Second. And discussion.
No.
Roll call.
Commissioner Bendy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bowe,
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne, Commissioner Grau, Commissioner Hulting,
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnel,
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc.
Yes.
While Sandra's getting herself settled, I will also want to compliment Sandra and her team on this audit. Is a really large project. It's, this book is big, but it's a process that starts in when we get done with budget in January, pretty much, and
I always say the two biggest things we do in
Right.
finance are the budget and the audit. Yeah, and the audit
Right.
really begins, well, we start gearing up for it in December.
right. So we're so lucky that we have her and her team, because this is just the tip of the iceberg, what you see here, as we all know. So thank you, Sandra.
Well, and I have to say, I really appreciated the parts where you did define things because I don't have a finance background, so it made it easier to comprehend.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'll just add that the award that he mentioned is really about that we're providing clear and easily understandable information. So I appreciate that comment.
And that we've received it so many years in a row.
Right. I don't want to be the one to not
Continuing
get
it year after year is always impressive. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. So on my written finance report, I'd like to point out that I did add, based on a comment at our last meeting, I think I added a comparison to 2019 related to the net amount to date in the recreation fund. So I want to make sure you all saw that. And I'm also happy to update the information technology section, as Gail mentioned, to let you know that the Hinckley Skate Park camera installation was completed. It's already bearing fruit. And it provides improved and larger coverage, and IT manager O'Leary will be testing the new equipment over the next couple weeks before implementing the live feed with the Park Ridge Police. If anyone has any questions on the written report, I'd be happy to answer them now. Otherwise, I'm going to review the financial performance details in the monthly report by funds. Okay. In the monthly report by funds, the treasurer's report shows our cash and investment position at the end of April remains strong at $13.5 million. As we'll see in the projection graph, this is better than budget projections by about $500,000. The budget estimate is determined by allocating budgeted revenues and expenses based on prior year's experience. So when things shift, that's sometimes why we'll have variances to the budget projections. The positive variance remains largely attributable to improving participation, as well as earlier receipt of property taxes compared to the prior year. I'd also like to point out that the 21 financials include a final accounting of the IMET investments. So that section that was previously on the treasurer's report has been removed because no additional distributions are expected. The next pages are the performance report, and it continues to show that our portfolio yield remains below the benchmark as interest rates have been increasing, while we're continuing to maintain liquid balances due to the potential delay in the second half property tax bills. But I'm still going to be looking at that with PMA and weighing investment options against the need for liquidity moving forward. So we're continuing to monitor that. In the monthly report by funds, the all funds, the first page of the all funds shows through April results are better than both budget and the prior year by $718,000 and $369,000 respectively. And as we'll see in the individual fund reports, it continues the trend that we've been talking about the last couple months, improved operations, including increased program participation compared to the restricted operations in the pandemic year, the first quarter, as well as earlier timing of tax receipts this year. So the first half installment we got earlier than we did last year. And we're kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with the second half installment.
Just to alert everybody, the latest news is that it's not going to happen. And in fact, Wintrust and some others have reached out to most of the units of government. If they haven't, they will, Sandra, to talk about tax anticipation warrants. The assessor is in a fight with his software company. It was a 4-year plan to implement the software, and they haven't, and they can't. They're in a fight, and rather than go back to the old software to make sure the second half of taxes are received and paid out to the units of government, he'd rather fight with his software company. That's the latest update.
Huh.
So nobody's expecting to get the second installment of taxes. It's a very bleak forecast that the county commissioners and others have told us about. So start planning ahead for not getting it, because he wants to fight with the software company rather than do his job, which is to get the money collected and out to the units of government.
So we have, kind of reviewed looking forward if that, doesn't come until the early part of next year. And I do not anticipate that we would need tax anticipation warrants. It is one of the benefits of how we have diversified revenue. For taxing bodies that are more heavily reliant on property taxes, it's a real problem. But because about half of our revenues come from recreation, we should not need to borrow, but we will. We do have this opportunity cost where I'm like looking at lower interest rates by keeping these balances liquid, because we don't want to invest them out for 6 months if we're not going to be getting the property taxes in. So
So if we had to do property tax warrants, is that something then you would bring to the board for a vote? Or?
oh yeah.
Okay. I figured, but I just wanted to confirm.
Interest isn't big on them, but there is, it's a debt fund.
Yeah, it's a borrowing, which we would need your approval for.
Dirk, what's the kerfuffle with the software company about? Like, what's the problem?
The software that the assessor has to collect the taxes doesn't talk to the rest of the county's software.
Okay.
And so it was a 3-year implementation glide path to land. They are way behind. They don't have they claim they don't have the staff to do it because staff retired or left or quit. And so he's claiming that the software company, it was their responsibility to get it up and running. And the software company says, we've positioned everything we can. It's on your end at the county to do it, and you haven't. And he'd rather just keep fighting than get the taxes collected. So that's the kerfuffle.
Okay, thanks.
It seems like I won't comment. Yeah. So I do expect that, as interest rates are increasing and, the more I hear about this, the more I'm inclined to keep our liquid balances, that we will continue to see that disparity. So let's see, where was I? General fund. You can see the impact of is basically what we've been talking about the last couple months, how we have higher tax receipts than we did at this time last year. And then I want to point out in the recreation fund, you can see the impact of the increased participation, where total recreation revenues are about 175% higher than the prior year. And again, I did include a bullet in the first bullet point on recreation in my written report, where you can compare what the net is to where we were at this time in 2019, and we're ahead of that as well, which is great. In the capital fund, our capital expenditures are continuing to pick up. There is a large variance in revenues, and that's due to the timing of budgeted grant revenue. As I mentioned, when I do the projections, I look at when did we get monies in the prior year. So for something like a large grant, we have about 200,000 remaining from Woodland. Well, we won't be receiving that until the project's completed and we're able to submit everything. whereas we actually received the first half of that in April of last year. So it's creating this variance in revenues. And then the operating fund shows the impact of these factors again, and the net surplus as of April is about $450,000 better than budgeted, and about $1 million more than where we were at this time the prior year. So does anyone have any questions on the report by funds? Okay, lastly, on projections, the projection graph shows the cash position. It is expected to be slightly below budgeted projections going forward, but then closes up to budget later in the year. And again, that's related to the timing of the capital grants that I mentioned. And I have not yet moved the second half property tax due date, but I'll think about doing that for next month so that you can see that we'll still be in good shape. Any questions about the projections or anything else in the finance report?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So is there a motion there? I move to approve the payment vouchers in the total of $625,325.04. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Any discussion? Roll call. Yes.
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 Oh, all right. And I move to adopt ordinance number 22-3, an ordinance authorizing the sale of used personal property used by the Park Ridge Park District. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Spot in 2009, I believe.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Coyne, Commissioner Grau, Commissioner Holting,
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnel. Commissioner Bendy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bowe,
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc.
Yes.
And I turn it over to, what's that?
Oh, since Matt's not here. So, all right, so I will turn it over to Superintendent Armour.
Thank you. As always, my report begins with all of our fun events that we had in the spring. We had our bunny hop at home. We weren't sure how those would continue with having the at-home things continue, but still very popular. The egg hunts and Earth Day, we were all thrilled to have that back. Later in the report is information also about the ice show. It was wonderful to see that return. Our skating director, David Santee, plans on retiring this fall, and he had a wonderful surprise send-off from the skaters during intermission. So it was wonderful. Also at Oakton, the batting cages and driving range opened for the season, and the activity center hosted an expo. The fitness center continues to see the membership growth. And in the aquatics area, the egg dip also returned. It's great to see all these things back. And in case you didn't notice, we saw some really impressive pass sales in the month of April for the outdoor pools. So everyone's ready for a regular pool season. Sometimes when the weather's not so great, we don't see the pool pass sales till right before we open, but you know, right off the bat. The dance team is performing again. We had the dance show last weekend. It was scheduled to be here, but because of the rain, it moved over to the activity center. And preschool graduations are tomorrow. And staff is gearing up for summer. Again, all the facilities and getting things ready and continuing to hire and train. The training, of course, for the aquatics facilities are in full gear, and camp trainings start next week. If anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I just had a couple of comments. One, I actually received a compliment to pass on to you and the staff regarding the Earth Day Fest. Somebody's children had a fabulous time and they thought it was really well run.
Wonderful.
And then
thank you.
my son was in the dance recital, and I was very impressed with how the sort of switch to rain day plan went. It was seamless. It was, easy, and I thought it was a really good solution to not being able to have the old auditorium system, to instead have it in the activity center and have the time shifts. I thought that was really well run.
Great, thank you. They were both last-minute switcheroos too, because at Earth Day they had to change their entire location because of all the wind. So that was they're experts at shifting and pivoting, as we know.
Well, your staff has become fantastic at flexibility, so
Thank
my
you.
compliments to you and them.
Thank you. Well, someone even said that one of the parents said, "This is like a parent's dream. We just get to watch our kid and go. You don't have to sit for everybody else's." I'm like, I think a good compliment too. It's a parent's dream to not watch everybody else's kid, I guess.
I mean, I did sort of miss like the little ones, because you always have the one that sort of goes rogue.
Right.
But it was kind of nice to only it was nice to only have to sit there for my kids' performance.
I'll definitely pass those along. Thank you.
I think the increase in numbers that we're seeing, everything returning back to normal, is a real testament to the amount of work that everybody in the staff is doing to try to return back to normal. The hard work that we see, everything from the memberships going back up, the rentals going up, it looks great. And I think that it really is a testament to the hard work that you guys are doing and have done through some really challenging situations. So thank you again for that. It doesn't go unnoticed.
Thanks. I'll definitely pass that along. Appreciate it.
Oh, I guess I did actually just think of one other question. How is the hiring for lifeguard and counselor positions going? Is it close to where you want it to be?
Lifeguard, aquatic staff this year has been great. Yeah, not the issues that we've seen last year. Camp staff has been a real challenge. I had an update meeting with Manager Grieve today, though, and thankfully, 2 weeks ago, we were really, really nervous because we were 60 counselors short.
Oh, wow.
And as of today, they're estimating 12. So they're nervous because they don't have extra staff at the moment, and they're, juggling vacations. And, normally we're like, you have to work the whole summer or else we, can't hire you. And so now they're trying to put people in different time slots for vacations and hopefully fill those last slots and then get some extra staff, because we anticipate there's going to be people out sick. And so we're getting there. 2 weeks ago, we were kind of panicking.
Who knows? Maybe in the fall, some of those camp counselor staff could be converted to Beyond the Bell staff.
We already talked about that. We're like, day one, say, who's going to be here for the fall, please? So.
And I think the aquatics is great news as well, because we're hearing other districts. I don't know if you're seeing anything in the news. There's some people not opening pools or cutting hours. It's a big story right now about people not getting guards and aquatic staff. So knock on wood that we get through the trainings and we keep them all. So.
Well, and shifting to 15-year-olds really helped.
Oh, right.
So.
Well, thank you for all your efforts.
I'll try to amplify for the camp counselors on my social, let some moms and dads know. I was a camp counselor for 2 summers, and I had a blast in college for those 2 summers. It's super fun. So it was one of the best summer jobs I ever had. So I'll definitely try to help you get those last 12, plus some buffer, so
more.
people can take vacations. So
April, what are they hiring in at, and are there bonuses if you stay the whole year?
They're hiring, our starting range is counselors at 13, assistants starting at 14, coordinators starting at 16.
Any bonuses if you stay the whole time?
No, not for the whole time.
Okay.
Right now, we're just need people, but we did see this, the uptick the past few weeks. Staff does think the referral bonus has been.
A referral bonus, okay, yeah, nice,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I don't know why it took till the last 2 weeks to make that happen, but
I mean, I did it in college, and you're in finals until that first. It was always like May 9th or something, 9th to the 12th when I got done. So, I mean, I did it as a college student, and then I was like slamming for finals, and it was like, oh crap, I gotta get a summer job. So I think both summers I kind of got hired
it's
the
just
last
a
minute.
change because we're
Yeah.
used to having hundreds and hundreds of applications.
Right.
And, it's.
I mean, we never used to have to do any, and we're not alone, right? Any of these referral programs are the all out, the blanket advertising campaign. And so I think that I would say that helped a lot. I mean, everybody's really been trying hard. The latest was in HR report. They were, telling our staff to post the stuff at their, schools and their employment, places. So I really think, everybody really put a lot of effort into that. We just never had to do it.
What's the lifeguard hourly for lifeguards? Is there a difference between counselors and? Sorry, I just am like, is there?
I don't recall.
Okay.
Off the top of my head.
Okay.
I can look it up quickly for you.
I just wondered what the difference was and if that was if there was a difference and that was part of it.
Yeah, I think lifeguard, don't quote me, but I think we started cashiers at minimum wage at 12 and lifeguards at 13 also.
Okay, so it's the same.
Yeah.
12 is minimum now?
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry. And now I'll pass it on to Melissa for Commissioner Holting for Buildings and Grounds.
And I will say I'm very pleased to be serving another year as Buildings and Grounds Liaison with Superintendent Wolf.
Thank you.
I told him he stuck with me for another year, so.
Happy to work with you. One thing I wanted to quick follow up on from our last meeting, I was asked, and we said we would get back with the overall cost for the Hinckley restroom renovations. I did look that up, and our final total cost, which included all engineering, permitting, materials testing, everything, was $231,966.46. So I did want to follow up on that. Beyond that, we did, in my board report, I did highlight that we had a chance to sneak in an OSHA training with our staff here while the weather was still not wonderful. So that was a good and important training, and it's nice to see everyone kind of coming together and working on these things. Myself and safety coordinator Myers attended as well. So even though this is primarily for the users that are entering the spaces and actually accessing the confined spaces and the holes in the ground with the equipment, it was both important for both of us to attend that, to understand, and we identified maybe a couple of different equipment opportunities that we'll be pursuing as well. So that was good. In fact, one of my staff just relayed to me earlier this morning that they had the training. We had the air monitor. They were in a pit. They opened something up, and it had a sulfur smell, and the alarm went off, and they scattered out of there just like they were supposed to. And it was just old stagnant air from pool pipelines. But it was just good to hear, the reactions that they had, and that they were taking that seriously, and that they were able to relay to me the trainings that they did. So I was really happy to hear that. So we've got a lot going on. Many different projects. You can see it looks like the contractor's working late, trying to crank through this roof out here and trying to finish up today, it looks like. But we've been painting the pool. So we've had a bit of a challenge trying to come up with the pool paint, but we did work and get some pool paint, and they've been painting it. The pools will be getting filled this weekend. The it's been done over at Centennial. It's got a cure. You can also see a photo of that bike rack that bike repair station that Executive Director Mountcastle mentioned earlier. And, just kind of general projects, just ongoing and continuing. And, we're constantly looking into new things that we have, kind of some smaller projects and moving along our list. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about anything on our report at this time. Otherwise, we can move on.
It's not, I didn't see anything about it on the report, but I was wondering what was going on with the big slide at Centennial Park. Because I noticed that there was a circle of wood at the bottom of it.
There was a part that was damaged a while back, and so it had been damaged and had to be removed from staff because that last piece, that exit piece, had been cracked.
Oh.
And so they had to remove that part and put a piece of wood on there. So the repair parts are being ordered. So
Is there any timeline on when that slide will be operational again?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to follow with my staff and see if they have. Generally, it's 6 to 8 weeks right now for most playground parts. So I would think in the next couple of weeks we should see it. But
So it just seemed to be like a part of age. It did it appear to be?
No, it appeared that it was damaged by someone. So yeah, unfortunately, because it had the center of the bottom of it was cracked in multiple spots. So, which certainly at the bottom of a slide like that you don't want to have. And so we actually had staff come in and remove that as soon as we heard about it. That it was like in an afternoon after the end of the work day. But we had staff come back immediately and take care of it.
All right. Well, thank you for that
Mhm.
update.
I think that might have been on my last report because I think we're probably about 4 to 6 weeks out. So
I didn't remember seeing that.
Yeah, if not, maybe I missed it.
Walking by the other day, I was like, huh.
yeah, it's. I mean, and I had a conversation. You see, there's a couple of additional graffiti items on there. I had a conversation with four-person Barker, and we had some discussion about just the frequency and overall, how often we're seeing graffiti. And what I learned was that it's similar to my past experiences at other districts. It happens so frequently that they almost forget to mention it because they're out cleaning up the garbage and there's a little bit of graffiti over here, and so they remove it, or they do this and then they forget to, so there's a little bit of staff are so used to making these sorts of repairs because it's what they're hired to do to some degree that they forget to kind of pass it along and share it. And so it might have been that one didn't make it onto our spreadsheet. We forgot to report on it. So, but I'll
That's
follow
fine.
up
I
on
just kind
that.
of wanted to ask. And
Yeah, no.
it's like I said, I noticed it walking by. I was like, that doesn't look right.
Yep. No, that's not right.
All right. Thank you.
I had a question. Is the damage to the restroom at Hinckley, is that the same from the vandalism, or is that new? On the report, the $600.
The one on the report is the one that we had talked about at the last meeting. That was all on the interior.
Got it.
As Gail mentioned, the markings that were placed then are the same markings that were placed yesterday that we have that person on camera.
Mm.
So we're pretty sure we're going to get to identify that person. We're feeling pretty confident about that. But they are separate. So
Okay. And are the restrooms back open now, or are they still closed?
So they are not open just yet, and at this point they're not open because the software for the locking mechanism failed on us, and so our parks foreman is working with our IT manager to get those updates. They purchased a new tablet that we need today because a couple of things changed and just happened to all go wrong at the same time. So, so the staff have completed they've painted everything, they've cleaned everything, they've repaired everything. They were ready to open it earlier this week, and the software wasn't functioning or communicating. And so we got IT involved and identified what we needed to do, took those steps, purchased the equipment. We should be able to reprogram the locks now because we can't reprogram them right now, so they require a key every time you want to open them.
So moving forward, that will help out because you'll be able to lock it automatically.
Well, so we can't lock it automatically remotely, but we already we have it on a timer so that at certain times of the day it just locks and unlocks itself. But so we're working to get that, and we've left the the portable restrooms out there until we get that resolved.
Yeah, so I just wasn't sure if it was new damage or not.
A little bit different, but
Yeah,
hopefully we're nearing the end of that too.
I hope.
I mean,
Baseball in full swing.
Yeah, that does help. I do want to share. I did share with Executive Director Mountcastle previously that our park ambassadors have noted over the last couple of weeks, generally they're seeing a little bit less because I think we are assuming that some word got out. We know that the person at Main Park had gotten caught, and we knew that there was a group of people out there. So I think, perhaps the word's getting out that, hey, you guys better watch it. They caught me or whatever. Because they've said, it's been a little bit quieter than it has, and the weather's been improving. So yeah, until yesterday, obviously, but in general, that's what we've been experiencing. So hopefully we're heading in the right direction with that. But
All right. Any other questions on the Buildings and Grounds report? And now we'll move on to the South Park Master Plan and Playground Design Playground Design Agreement. I move to approve an agreement with Upland Design Limited in an amount not to exceed $79,121 for the South Park Master Plan and Playground Design, and to authorize the executive director to execute and deliver such agreement. Can I have a second?
Second.
All right. Discussion now. Anybody have any questions? Do you want to talk about this, Terry, at all? We talked about it a little bit at the last meeting.
we did talk about it a little at the last meeting. We didn't have numbers to go with it. And so I guess, in general, the idea here is that we would move forward with the master planning and the playground designing at the same time, assuming that we have a reasonable expectation that a playground is going to need to exist still at this park. So the idea would then, get us moving in the right direction and helps us with consolidating on some of these meetings where we could, tackle both the master planning ideas as well as some of the conversations that need to happen and get input from the public on the playground specifically. I think this is a good path forward. It lends us a good opportunity should we meet with a OSLAD timeline for a grant, and should we find ourselves in a position that we could apply for a grant because our mix of amenities and our budgets available all line up. I think this would be our best opportunity to get there because we would have to have these kind of public input meetings to get to that point. So I think this makes sense. It will help us with the future planning and development of that park long term. We do have some budget available. I do want to point out that we had money budgeted this year for resurfacing the asphalt pathway at Centennial. I'm identifying that we have $30,000 available in that. It's not that we are going to be under budget by $30,000. I'm just suggesting that we're in the process of doing some design work with a local engineer right now on that project. And just because of the timing that that's taking, what we saw with the asphalt related bid over at JC Park, my anticipation is that we will not have enough funding available for that. So it's also currently functional. We're just trying to get ahead of that as a maintenance item. So, but it's still functional. We think that, this would bring value to the district overall at South Park. And as the year evolves, we often find ourselves with different projects that, some are a little over, some are a little under. I can tell you right now with our trending and what I'm seeing, because we're nearing completion for our pool painting, that will be pretty significantly under budget on that line item. So, which is good and might help, okay, wait a minute, we can go back and revisit this. Maybe we can do part of the path, or, those are some things that we have some flexibility in, I believe. So I think this would be, prudent for the district to move forward on, and a good planning exercise for us, for sure.
Any other questions for Terry on this before we take a vote? All right, your finger's on the button, Commissioner Tunnel. I didn't know if you were getting ready to vote or if you had questions. All right, Mary Ann, can we have a roll call?
Sure. Commissioner Grau, Commissioner Halting,
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnel,
Yes.
Commissioner Bendy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bowe,
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne, Commissioner Leduc.
Yes.
All righty. I will look forward to seeing what happens with this one.
Bye. Thank you.
And then we have the upcoming bids for the cleaning services at the fitness center, which that's important.
Yes, very important.
Fitness
So,
center.
so the fitness center is one of the facilities that we do hire out for custodial services just because of the nature of the operations and the hours that it operates. So this is a bid that we put out typically every 3 years, and the way it works is that we can put the bid out and provide and ask for the opportunity to extend the bid for 2 additional years at that same bid price if we're satisfactory and if they're in agreement. We were able to do that successfully for the last 2 bid years. We haven't had to bid it out since 3 years ago, and so it's just part of our routine bidding process is to update this. We were happy with the existing bidding company, but we do need to do this every so often. So we did have a pre-bid meeting that Mary Ann was with me at, and we probably had 12 or so different vendors there show up that we walked around the facility, asked questions, covered kind of the task list and things like that. So it typically generates a lot of interest, and it was a good showing again, so we're happy to see that. So we will be bringing those to the board on June 16th once we open those, and hopefully the numbers are within our budget.
Alrighty. Well, that is it. So I'm going to move it over to Commissioner Tunnel to talk about all of the policy initiatives he has planned for his term.
Can I jump in first before we let Terry? I just wanted to give a special thanks to Terry and his team. We had a major problem getting that paint, and Terry personally spent a lot of time and learned a lot about the different paints, but is physically driving to get some more of it tomorrow. So thank you, and thank you and your staff for everything you've been doing to get everything ready.
We're happy to do so, but thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'm suddenly curious about pool paint, but I'll bug you offline about. No, there's so much to learn about buildings and grounds, and now I can continue to learn about pool paint and other fun things. Commissioner Tunnel.
I have a long list of nothing for policy to report, and I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Bendy for intergovernmental.
So that takes us to communications and correspondence, and I saw that we actually had a note of thanks from a patron, so that was absolutely
Nice job,
lovely
George.
to read.
Yes, this is the one I mentioned that I forgot to put in there. It was George from the Main Park. He's a great, very friendly staff member. So yeah, so that kind of a little extra thanks that our staff do that.
And moving right along, does anyone have any new business? No? All right. Hearing none, I move to adjourn to closed session for the purposes to discuss land acquisition per 2C5. We will reconvene to open session to take action, if any, on the item discussed in closed session. May I have a second?
Second.
All right. Could take any discussion? All right.
Commissioner Holting,
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnel,
Yes.
Commissioner Bendy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bowe,
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne, Commissioner Grau, Commissioner Leduc.
Yes. All right. It is 8:45, and the regular board meeting of May 19th, 2022 is reconvening. And with that, if does anybody have anything else? Seeing nothing, I move to adjourn the meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, voice vote, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
All right. It's pretty good.